My mother asked who I wanted to marry for our family's alliance. I didn't hesitate, but this time I didn't choose Kendra Jewett. Instead, I chose her dear aunt. My mother was utterly baffled. Everyone in Cavendale knew Kendra and I had grown up together. I had spent a decade chasing her, convinced she was the only one I could ever love. I had once declared with unwavering certainty that I would marry no one but her in this lifetime. A bitter smile tugged at my lips as the memories flooded back. Memories of promises and love that seemed so unbreakable. A bitter smile tugged at my lips as the memories of my past life came flooding back. After marrying Kendra, she never once allowed me to touch her. I had convinced myself it was some deep-seated trauma, a secret wound she was too afraid to confront. I thought I could fix it, that love would heal her. But everything shattered. On our golden wedding anniversary, I accidentally stumbled into the one room she had locked away from everyone. The walls were lined with photos of my cousin. That moment cut through me like a knife. She wasn't indifferent to intimacy. She simply didn't love me. With the sting of that realization still raw, I promised myself that I would rewrite the ending. In this life, I would give her the love she wanted, the love I couldn't give her before. But as I walked toward Rosie, dressed in my wedding suit, Kendra's face drained of color, her eyes wide with shock. And then it happened. She broke her mind, slipped into madness before my eyes. 3 days after the alliance was sealed, I crossed paths with Kendra at a gathering. The moment her friends laid eyes on me, they burst into mocking laughter, their voices dripping with ridicule. "Kendra, your little lapdog's here to find you again. Mr. Fiancé, aren't you already bound to the Jewett family? Why are you still clinging to her like this? Can't even let her attend a gathering without trailing behind." The scorn in Kendra's eyes burned like a knife as she spotted me. "Wyatt, are you really this desperate to marry me? You didn't even bother to get my consent before your families arranged our engagement. Now the whole of Cavendish and OWS were tied together. You've really outdone yourself this time." Her words stung, but I kept my composure, my voice calm and steady. "No need for your consent. The one I'm marrying isn't you." The moment the words left my mouth, the room erupted with laughter. Kendra's friends laughed so hard they could barely stay on their feet. "Kendra, you better keep an eye on your little fiancé." Kendra's frown deepened, her gaze sharpening as she turned to me. "Wyatt, are you trying to play hard to get now?" she scoffed. "If you're not marrying me in this family alliance, and who? Don't forget, you've been shouting since we were kids that you'd marry me. Everyone in Cavendish knows you've got eyes for no one else but me." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I won't hold the engagement against you, but listen carefully. I can give you a grand wedding, but the marriage certificate? That will only go to the person I truly want to marry." Her words hit me like a thunderclap. In my past life, she'd followed her family's wishes without question and registered the marriage with me almost immediately. Was it possible? Had she been reborn too? Before I could decipher Kendra's expression any further, my cousin Elliot Page walked into the gathering. The moment he saw me with Kendra, his eyes turned red and it looked like he might explode. "Brother Wyatt, Sister Kendra, I heard you two are getting married soon. I didn't bring a gift, but I wish you both nothing but happiness." Before he could finish, Elliot dashed out of the room, tears streaming down his face. "Look at what you've done!" Kendra's glare was sharp, filled with fury, before she bolted after him without a second glance. When they finally returned, their fingers were entwined tightly, as if they belonged together. Elliot's lips were bruised, and a bold hickey marked Kendra's neck. The room fell silent, eyes darting back and forth, waiting for me to react. In the past, whenever another man came near Kendra, I couldn't help but lose control, throwing a tantrum, demanding her attention. As if she were mine to command, Kendra reached out her hand, forming a protective barrier as she shielded Elliot behind her. Her eyes glinted with something that seemed to anticipate what would come next. But as the moments passed, I remained still, my silence stretching like an unspoken challenge. Kendra's gaze flickered, surprise flashing across her face before she let out a cold laugh, the sound laced with bitterness. "At least you've grown up a bit. No tantrums this time, huh?" After the banquet, when we were on our way home, she suddenly halted me with a gesture. "It's late, and it's not safe. Let me give you a ride." I couldn't refuse the offer, not with the night stretching on and no real reason to protest. I made my way toward the car's back seat, but before I could settle in, Kendra blocked my path, her gaze sharp. You sit in the back, she said coolly, her hand guiding Elliot into the front seat as if she were already accustomed to making the decisions. Sorry, Brother Wyatt, Elliot said with an apologetic tone. Kendra was just worried I might get carsick. I didn't reply. I simply slid into the back seat. As I had planned from the start. The ride was filled with light chatter and laughter between Kendra and Elliot up front, their voices almost too familiar. As the car stopped at a red light, Elliot leaned in playfully, asking if he could help Kendra with her lipstick. Their gazes locked, their faces inches apart. The air between them thickened, their breaths growing heavy with unspoken tension. But just as the moment stretched, Kendra suddenly turned toward the back seat, her eyes catching mine, as if she'd only remembered my presence, seeing me staring out the window indifferent. Her face faltered, a sharp shift in her mood. Her expression darkened. She quickly started the car again, speeding away from the awkward moment. Once we arrived home, I barely had time to step out of the car before Kendra grabbed my arm with unexpected force. She shoved a bracelet into my hand, her tone dripping with condescension. All right, stop pretending like you don't care. It's pathetic, she sneered. She continued her words like a command rather than a gift. Take this bracelet as my engagement gift to you. As long as you play along, I'll give you the wedding you want. At least everyone in Cavendish will think you're my husband. I raised my gaze, meeting her eyes, and asked, Then who are you actually marrying? Is it Elliot? Her anger flared. Something else was in her gaze, a subtle, almost smug satisfaction. I knew you were just pretending. My relationship with Elliot is something you can't even begin to understand. He's kind, genuine, everything you're not. If you hurt him, don't expect the wedding to go through. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. It was clear to me that it was her own fear. Fear of defying the Jewett family that kept her from truly speaking her mind. Yet here she was, trying to shift the blame onto me. I said nothing. Instead, I turned and walked away, heading home. As soon as I stepped inside, my phone buzzed with an incoming video from Elliot. In the video, Kendrick carefully helped him fasten a wristwatch. The brand was unmistakable. And suddenly I remembered the bracelet she had given me earlier. An afterthought. This free gift came with the watch. Their gaze locked. A soft, affectionate exchange before they kissed. Passionate and unrestrained, the wet, smacking sounds from the car were almost suffocating. Too intimate for my taste. Brother Wyatt, I'm sure Kendra told you once the wedding with you is done, she's going to register her marriage with me. You know, a marriage that isn't legally recognized doesn't entitle you to any inheritance rights. It's time for me to claim my spot as the husband of the wealthiest woman in Cavendish.